Yeah, because it's rude, like playing your headphones too loud that other people can hear it.
So it's okay if I sing to myself?
Nope. She's like, why would you want to inflict whatever you're singing onto other people?
And there we go.
Hello and welcome to another interruption of our daily morning conversations with a show we like to call How Did You Get There? A show where we're critical of thoughts, ideas, opinions, and beliefs, but not necessarily the people that hold them.
The thoughts expressed on this show are probably ours. Let's claim, and not necessarily JessTV, Jess FM, Jess personally, anyone in the world named Jess.
Other presenters on the
show. Yeah, it's us.
It's just us. Even our guest today, take it out on us.
Yep.
We picked him. You didn't.
Yeah, you can pick on him in your spare time.
That's right. And so, having said that, our guest today, Dr. Bryson Brown. Professor of language, more or less. But we'll let him
Professor of philosophy, and we're going to talk about language because philosophers do a lot of that.
Nice. Yeah. So 2-minute CV, 2-minute TED Talk. What if I were to walk into your class about language, the philosophy thereof? What would you wake me up with? What's the hit me statement?
Mostly we make noises. And inscriptions. It's a colleague of mine that I worked with for quite some time, Ray Jennings, used to say that, and it fits really nicely. That's a starting point for thinking about what language is.
Nice. And I so I'm excited because I already felt that way about this. I just sort of, it dawned on me naturally as we were discussing earlier, babies think things, right? Babies, I'm hungry, thinks baby. But I don't think they have our language skill set.
I'm not sure about thinks there. I mean, thinking as we try to describe it and interpret it. You say, what do you think? You use language to express that. The baby hasn't got that yet. So what I'd like to say about the baby there is that there's a kind of state of the child, of the infant, that is evolved basically because if it doesn't make noise, people may neglect it. And that's a noise that sort of draws attention. And for those of us that have had kids or want to have kids, that focuses our attention on them. Say, what's the matter? Do we need to treat the diaper here? Place that. Or is this about food? And gradually you begin to actually pick up some sense of what they're conveying there, and they begin to pick up some sense of how to use it.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's sort of a feedback.
Yeah, and they'll hear the weird noises that we make and associate them with the satisfaction or non-satisfaction of some need.
And we talk to them continuously long before they have any real sort of take-up of words. They pick up noise structures, and they begin to make connections between those and what's going on around them.
Yeah, I would challenge though that the thinking that a baby does is probably actually, I would still class it as thinking because it is it doesn't seem as complex as what we do, right? We are still state machines,
like rather than
hand wavy,
less introspective thought.
Yeah, one of the things that they do is belly hurt, make noise, right?
There are connections like that. Yeah.
One of the things that I do is belly check in. Oh, I remember a time, and remembering is a thing that babies don't do very well yet.
Oh yeah.
Because they have
limited experience,
limited memories.
They are forming neural connections
all the time, right?
And fast.
Yeah. And so they will build up these state type connections where I can as soon as I can observe passage of time, I can say, okay, well, it's been some time. I think I'm going to be hungry. I should do something about that now. And it might not be as specifically worded, but there's that beginning of forward planning, and then tie that with noises and scribbles. And
I like inscriptions.
Yeah, inscription sounds so much more academic.
I think that was part of the game there.
Yeah, that's why I called them scribbles.
Not playing the game.
Like if we're gonna say noises, let's say scribbles. If we're going
Utterances and
if we say utterances and inscriptions, because utterance implies some intention, inscription implies some intention.
Yeah.
Noise could just be what my belly was doing this morning when I was thinking I should have some breakfast.
Yeah. So one of the tricky, slippery slopes in all of that then is, at some point we assign a value. Is that a good? I mean, I'm going to have to double check all these as I go. Value or the meaning of a thing. Like,
meanings. Well,
yeah. Like if I have a word, like any word, and I assign a what is the value of word? What do I mean when I say word, right? Like, is that how, though, we start assembling these languages, is the value we've assigned to the usage of the word?
We make noises, right? And we write things too when we acquire that kind of capacity. So we make these noises, and the noises that we're making have roles that are social and to some extent at least shared, and subject to change and context, because as you get more sophisticated with it, of course, you can tell that was a joke, or you can tell that you're pulling my leg, or
that there's a bear running at you.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing to know when it occurs.
Well, like if I say "look out,"
yeah,
that combination of sounds carries a general but fairly particular meaning.
Yeah. Other things, duck, run, that kind of thing, and also, hey, let's eat.
Yeah, and in my corner of the universe, when I work with language and artificial intelligence, which I have lots of thoughts about that term in my own industry, probably for a different day. But one of the things that we do now is we create what are called word embeddings. So we'll take a token, a word, a noise, an inscription of some kind, and we will create an arbitrary set, say 400 or 500 or 1,000 values, each in the range of 0 to 1, and we will learn some kind of pattern that reliably recognizes an utterance or an inscription or a token relative to other tokens that it's seen.
Okay, so it's recognizing structures that relate different kinds of expressions in language.
Yeah, and so we're training. It's not actually learning. We're actually training it.
Right.
Subtle difference.
So you're giving it feedback. No, not that one.
Yeah.
And it sort of says, oh well, I thought it was like that, but
and there's some self-attention mechanisms where it's like, well, I thought it was this, but probably not. Or I think it's going to be this. Oh, but it's not. Right. So there's a lot of that going on, which is strongly similar to what you said about we have these noises, and socially we have this context, right? So it's I think in that sense, I think we're doing the right kind of modeling thing. Is it what our brains actually do? Doesn't matter.
That's kind of an open question. I mean, on the one hand, we're starting off with this thing that we carry around in our skulls, responding to inputs from the ears and eyes and so on, and in hearing and in learning inscriptions later on, we're developing a kind of pattern of behavior that is something that gets the right kinds of responses broadly from your other fellow speakers and writers too. So if that's what's going there, and you're doing something like you described there for machines, you're trying in a sense to mimic that process. I have some concerns about the vast difference between neurological development in the human brain in speech centers and auditory centers and so on and so forth, and connecting those things and the kind of programming that you're building in these machines.
Yeah,
that those are very different processes, and so you can perhaps make them mimic what we're doing. But for one thing, if you want to go beyond that in making noises about descriptions of the world around you, you need sensory input for them, and you need not just language input.
It's the blue room, where there's a girl in a room, and she has never experienced the color blue, never looked at it,
Right.
has all available information, like knows exactly what wavelength blue operates on, has read everything, every description, every poem about blue, has never seen blue. How much of an effect will seeing blue have, right? So it will have an effect. So you can tell the large language models all about blue. You could, the perfect wavelength of blue, the blue, the blue, the blue, but until it sees the blue, it doesn't have the same understanding of blue.
Yeah. So what would it be for that machine to see the blue?
Yeah, and how
with us,
right?
As
And
we see,
how could we get the machine to see? So that's sort of one of those little steps in the way, maybe. But it's the same sort of idea that I think that you're tackling, is that it doesn't see blue. It just knows what we tell it about blue.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
and it can also develop the capacity to respond in more or less the way that we do to it if you provide it with some sensory input of some
Would
kind.
it just sit there and be bewildered by actually finally seeing blue?
maybe.
Just, or at least that moment of awe.
Well, you add that input, but it's just going to take that input and connect it to, because we tell it to connect it to that word.
This
that
is
it's
all
already
all this
learned.
blue stuff we've been telling you. This is it.
Yeah.
And it will say thanks and be.
I can tell you about chocolate cheesecake. I can tell you all the things about chocolate cheesecake, and then I give you a chocolate cheesecake, and then you go, oh yeah, that's a chocolate cheesecake.
Yeah.
Right, and there's.
But you're giving a number of descriptives that are that have to be shared between you and the audience for that to convey.
Yeah, you tell me about chocolate. Well, okay, chocolate is this agreed utterance that we share. You tell me about cake. Well, that's an agreed utterance we share. You do, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I am never going to be the person that says an airplane is a bird. Right?
Although that usage is not entirely off the beam.
Right, but it's right. It flies for some meaning of the word fly.
But you might actually say, "Yeah, there's my bird."
Yeah, and you might, but that's a great use of analogy for speech.
Right.
Like that was not
one of those things that flies.
Not metonymy. What's the? There's a word for it. It's escaping me. The one where it's metaphor, I guess, for lack of a better noise.
It flies like a bird.
It flies like a bird, so I will call it a bird.
Yeah.
But it's. I'm not saying that the AIs that we build today are thinking, or our brains even.
Right.
But they do some of the tasks, like the thing that they're mimicking.
Like we think.
Yeah, exactly. Under the right circumstances, they can make noises or inscriptions that actually fit the context and are responses that fall within the range of responses that a human audience might.
Yeah. Our stochastic idiot does okay sometimes.
Yes. Ignorance is bliss.
When you think about the processes that are involved in their construction of that kind of capacity, or how we go about helping construct them to act in that way, it's clearly very, very different from the sort of changes in neural connections that take place because we actually cut them down as we're developing our capacities to put these things together in useful ways.
Yeah, and I love the idea that we're taking this thing where we have these noises and inscriptions, and we want to. Sometimes I think about the noises and inscriptions, and I think about happening in my head, like with my I imagine, which is a weird thing, that I am having the conversation, but just with myself. I am audiating utterances.
Yep. You're working through things, and you're actually thinking about the words that you would use to express them if you were making the noise or writing it up.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking, I'm already drifted off into what about things like twin speak? Right, which is no different. It is no different to language other than the recognition of the utterances, right?
Yeah. The audience is smaller.
Yeah. And there are family words too.
Oh no! As brothers, we are aware of those sorts of things.
And low.
Yep.
Hello, low.
And low. Yep.
We have those words. Yeah, that's fair. But I just wondered, like that's sort of like the best and most socially acceptable way of developing language in a vacuum, right? You can't just silo kid out and just good luck and feed tube and don't respond or interact and see what their utterances represent in the future, right?
You need the exposure to actually do the trimming that creates the circuits that actually work. Basically.
That was exactly. You couldn't just pull a person out and have them come up with their own language. They would just have noises of surprise, shock, awe, hunger. And they're not any less words.
Language.
It wouldn't be language
because it actually takes that sort of interaction, that social interaction over the noises and the context in which the noises are being used, or the inscriptions for that matter. You have to have that kind of rich interaction, or you're just not going to develop, right? Because the brain and the ears and so on and so forth, you're going to be receiving sounds, presumably, in a wider kind of context or experience.
Do we need language?
Without language, you're going to have experiences, right?
Yeah.
Because you're being exposed to things experientially. Your eyes will, if there's light, take on some way of processing the...
Are they an interdependent mechanism, do you suppose? Like, can we maintain social ability without this language? And can we, as we just discussed, you probably can't have language without the social ability.
Yeah. Well, we have some social capacities that we can actually deal with without having language. You can teach a dog tricks.
True.
And they respond to the noises, and they learn to do certain things.
They won't know that I skipped a herd
or whatever. But the word has no broader meaning in the way that we have words, the way we use words in a natural language, right? So bark, you can use that as a command word that might make the dog or lead the dog to learn to bark when you say that. But
it's
that
not
doesn't necessarily, what does that word mean? No, that's just a signal to do that, to make that noise.
Okay, yeah.
But we have much richer uses.
We do the same thing, but more richly.
Yeah. But the richness there has reached the point where you can actually come up with Newtonian mechanics or quantum mechanics or or legal systems or.
Sorry about that.
If it wasn't for words, there would be no law. I mean, there's still also natural pecking orders and such, but that's not law.
It's just dominance and authority.
Yeah.
And even that gets punished in less verbal communities. There's stories of chimp overlords that get displaced by the populace. They get marched out.
Or baboons. There's that story of the male baboon that was a real nasty piece of work, running a bunch, and then the females got up one night together and did some severe damage to his reproductive gear.
Made sure he wasn't in charge anymore.
Yeah.
You don't get to play this game anymore, sir.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
So I would claim that was thinking,
Well,
right? Because there must have been some communication. There must have been planning and forethought. And so, do I need language to think?
Certainly,
I need to think to
talk about language.
Yeah.
and need to talk about thought.
I can't imagine myself, like I've thought in other languages, right? Like I've dreamed in French, but I can't not think of myself not having, I guess no, anytime I struggle for a word, I'm having that issue, right? And anytime you're like, oh, what's that? Oh, it means, right? And that's your brain trying to assign the right values to the whatever utterance you're trying to make to get the right utterance so that the rest of your audience knows what the X you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the kind of, I guess in a way that's a sign that there's a fairly complicated sort of connections, some of which have to do with the meaning you want to convey, some of which have to do with how that connects with the inscription or the noise that you would make to express it with the particular context or in the context you're working in. And that's a fairly complex structure that's got to be going on there to, on the one hand, maintain some understanding and memory about the the noise that you're about to make or the inscription you're going to write, and on the other hand, responding to someone and coming up with that right noise and that right inscription. Inscription's a little easier because you get more time to scratch your head, but when you're trying to talk and suddenly the word's not there, right? This, it's the kind of thing that gets really frustrating.
Yes.
And if someone else says, "Do you mean?" and yes, that's exactly.
See,
So
and
you
that's
recognize it immediately when you miss it at first and then get a hint or somehow or other cross that valley.
When my pattern recognition exceeds my pattern recall.
Yes, very much. Yes.
It's like the tip of the tongue problem, right? It's like,
It's there. It happens more as you get older, I find.
Yeah.
what does? I mean,
separate and sidetrack, right? Is that just due to the abundance of stored data?
Yeah.
Like, is it because I can't retrieve it as quickly as I used to because the processes are slower as I age?
I think there are lots of ways
side
on
questions,
it,
right? But
I think some of it could be just context and some kind of disruption in your attempt to get there because something else is going on. And I talked to the neurologists about that. Maybe they might have more to say about maybe that would be an interesting thing certainly for them to study. I'd be surprised if they haven't.
Yeah, that's more. I bet that's a Google search away for the actual answer.
I have
some interesting input.
Yeah, some friends that were in a memory study for aging people. That you just this month. So somebody's looking into it.
That's cool. Because I think it's important because it's such a fabric of society, and I wouldn't have a hospital. I would have.
If it was that important, you just scribbled. Sorry, inscribed.
That's right. That's right. And then that's also something super fascinating is when we uncover some inscription that we've never uncovered before. Then it's a whole set of puzzle. What do these inscriptions mean? What is the value they've assigned to them? Why have they written them? Right?
Because we lost their context.
Well, that certainly happened when you start looking at old inscriptions, Babylonian, Egyptian, and it took some time to find some things that provided enough hints that you could start to construct an understanding of some of those languages, right? I found some tablets that actually...
Yeah, Rosetta Stone is kind of a big one.
Exactly.
There's also a conquering corridor where all the different types of cuneiform were applied on one wall. And so someone figured out, this is the Sumerian one, so now we can figure out Akkadian, and now we can figure out... I was like, whoa. And then the effort, right? And then again, what motivates... Like, I can say words all day long, but then if I think they're more important than that, right? If I can have utterances, I can make an inscription because it's more important than just putting it into the ether. It's
well, the inscriptions provide you with lots and lots of ways of sharing. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to, you guys sent me an email to set this up.
Yeah.
And that was handy. They didn't have to come knock on the door and say it to my ears.
And nobody's really living long enough that I can ask them the question about the thing they were thinking, right? Like if I'm curious about Protestant Reformation, right? I can't just be like, hey, I'm Luther. Some questions, right? So we have to have
the inscription up there. Yeah, well, he really did apparently think that, give or take what we understand.
Was he the guy that left the inscriptions on the door?
Yes. I mean, some of our earliest inscriptions are basically inventory and shopping.
Oh, yeah, it all comes back to economics, right?
Like a lot of it does. Like, how many cows do we have? 1, 2, 3.
One more, and one more, and one more.
N plus 1. We have infinite cows.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a thing. That's a thing.
Infinity. Yeah. Well, it just means you never reach the end.
Yeah. All right. Without
and then we found out that there were different kinds of infinities.
There's
different magnitudes,
which can't be mapped one-to-one to each other, or one to the other.
The infinite set that contains all infinite sets. The set that does not contain all infinite sets.
Things get messy.
It does.
And so we just make up a bunch of noises.
Well,
and a bunch of inscriptions.
If you're trying to do mathematics with that, right? You don't just invent noises. You actually invent a structure. right? And that structure can take you from naturals to, all the way to reals and
So language,
beyond.
yeah. So language gets
Easier
used
for
a
hanging out with
lot of
Dennis.
different ways. Like I come from the world of computer science, and
Right.
in my study of computer science, we talk about programming languages, and they are complete in a Chomskyan kind of way.
I'm putting that in the calendar. The first time you've referenced Chomsky.
Complete.
and complete in the same sentence.
Yeah, they are regular. They are universal and extendable, and they follow the rules, and they do all the things that Chomsky said. For it to be a language, it needs to do these things. I paraphrase, obviously, because it's not my area of study, but that's basically it. So, and they're languages. They're just not as general purpose as
Yeah.
a natural language.
That's right. Yeah, arithmetic is a language too,
yeah.
of sorts, and it has actual everyday applications that do connect it to the world. But there's also this really rich abstract structure there that has been the business of mathematicians for some time now.
Yeah. So we're going to use these. We have this set of symbols, and we won't worry about what they mean just yet. First, what we're going to do is we're going to do a bunch of things with these symbols, like count cows. And then later we're gonna use another system to think about how we're using these symbols. So we're gonna use
It's the meta move.
the meta move.
Yeah.
Cows move. How much?
It doesn't get better.
Yeah, we warned you earlier. Are numbers a separate thing from language?
Yes and no.
No, that's why.
Let's start with the no. I want to start with the no.
You're curious? Well, how could it not be? That's right. I mean, my brain kind of said that.
Well, there are quantities of things, and we would say there are quantities of things in their own right, whether we count them or not, whether we even have a language, whether there's anybody to talk about them.
That quantity of three
counting the
whatever's.
stars, or
counting stars is a big one. Yes.
and so
Many.
if we want to count things, of course, we have to do it in a way that somehow or other distinguishes this one from that one. And you need to go on and on and on so that each new one, right, gives you another step in the count.
How many cows are in the? How many
of course,
deer are we going to go running after today?
And then we set numerals up and to express them, and we set up the numbers as a concept to sort of, in effect, give us the capacity to share. Right.
Yeah.
And because we want to be not to overload our brain with symbols, we start to layer and augment symbols with other symbols. Right. When I say 3 is pretty elementary.
Yeah.
But if I say 30, it's not really a new token. Like, from some perspectives, it's a new token in the language to say 30, but really that's 3 tens.
Yeah.
Is where we get 30 from.
Yeah. Yeah.
20 is 2 tens.
Right.
So I don't have to, I know 10 and I know 3, so I can know 3 tens.
Yeah, without
that's
having to do
because-
the arithmetic, you can recognize the word token.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got you.
But yeah, that's still grounded in the end.
It's still grounded in the fact that I can go
count.
1, 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can make a noise that sounds like this, that could be inscribed as a single thing this way, or inscribed as a collection of things this way that roughly represent the parts of the sounds that I'm making.
I feel like it started at 1
Stupid spelling.
or more than.
And then we start inscribing.
Yeah.
And that's very handy because it's so much more shareable and
Yeah. As long as we, which is one of the things I like about etymology. Right, is we can actually go and look at how this word is inscribed, and then we can see other words that are similarly inscribed, and go, oh, maybe they share some meaning. Sometimes they don't.
but you connect lots and lots of different language words for red, hot in German, rouge in French, and they do all begin with there so far.
Yeah.
And they probably have some shared root to some extent. but
Yeah, fire is hot, fires look red.
more between the German and the English than the French and the English, I would guess, because the French is Latin.
Is there a rubric for finding those?
History, basically.
Picking a different
the red letter.
picking the red letter choice. Yeah.
Yeah. We're halfway through, one and all.
Already so soon?
I know, right? Our little show called "How Did You Get There?" A show where we're critical of thoughts, ideas, opinions, beliefs. So I'm gonna pretend like we started it half an hour ago, and I will say, "This is my guest, Bryson Brown." Bryson, you have chosen scholastic education. So why particularly philosophy and secondarily language?
Well, there are two stories there, and when it comes to my particular interests, I'm probably more of a technical thinker, and some of the more important things that I've published have been about strictly logistic or logical points, and say one in particular is completeness for weakly aggregated modal logics. Was
cool. Those are words you knew.
I know all those words.
So
I've never used them in that order before. Yeah.
But the original impetus was being struck in the first year philosophy course that I was taking at Trent, and I was very science inclined at that point, and done a fair bit of mathematics and was interested in those kinds of things. My father was a chemical engineer, did a fair bit of research engineering, so he was actually had his PhD from McGill. And so that really was the focus I had on how to think about the world. Mm-hmm. And the instructor, we had very small meeting groups weekly in this philosophy course, as well as the regular lectures. And the teacher, Alan Ornstein, was a very clever guy. He'd done a degree in Britain, and was actually also the cox in the rowing group. He was a small guy.
Yeah.
But he was a very clever man, and he challenged some of the ideas I had about being very confident about science just telling us, this is the way the world is. Mm-hmm. I had that kind of attitude. My father's a chemical engineer. That's how it's got to be.
There is a constituent component.
And he managed to make me think a lot harder. And a couple of papers in, because he was grading the papers, although the lectures were the larger part of the course, I came up with an argument that impressed him. And that sort of really, that positive sort of feedback when I was struggling and really trying to get to say something that met the standards that he was trying to set. Mm-hmm. It was a challenge, and it was an interesting challenge. And so I kept on taking philosophy courses and went to grad school, and et cetera, et cetera.
And how'd your dad take you turning out to be a philosopher?
He was quite content with that.
Nice.
It was okay.
That is the way to be. Yeah.
He wasn't going to try to make me follow in his footsteps. Yeah. He's always a kind of supportive,
nice,
quiet man. Very capable guy too.
And then so language, as it turns out, also was a big component of those classes.
Yes, yeah, especially when you start taking more classes in philosophy. Of course, there's this tradition in more modern philosophy where we actually really started analyzing language and thinking not just about translation between different everyday languages, but looking at formal treatments of language and reasoning in languages. So, you get formal logics where we provide a definition for the English use of and, which sort of matches the way we actually use the word and, but not very well. Those words, when you look at the history of word use, are very flexible. So you'll find in Shakespeare something like, and he does that, I will, right? You get a kind of threat there.
Yep.
And
what's becomes
the and
if
doing? Yeah, exactly. And plays the role of an if there, at least in our standard usage today. Yeah. And all of those words are subject to that kind of reuse because context really tells you what the speaker is saying. When he says that, right, you can say, right, well, there's a threat there.
Yep.
It
Yeah,
doesn't matter that the
and low.
Yeah, the and is not a problem when it comes to understanding that.
Yeah.
So there we have that thing about this language, which is it's twitchy, it's changing all the time, but at the same time, these words do these kinds of things. They juxtapose other sentences or properties. You say it's red and green. That's weird.
Yeah.
At least,
You
can say there are different parts of it that are red and others that are green, but you can't say that the thing itself as
The
a
Married
whole
Bachelor,
is both red and green.
The paradox of it, the Married
Yeah,
Bachelor.
yeah,
We know what those two were. We recognize what those two
Yeah.
things are,
Yeah,
and then they
No,
just
they don't.
can't.
They don't combine well
Yeah.
unless you're creating that use in a context where there's a way to understand what you're conveying with it, and we're pretty good at that too. We can sort of get the joke.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the easiest example people tend to throw around as it's a contradiction, like Married Bachelor.
Yeah. I spend a lot of time with OR in my world because I teach introductory computer programming, and OR is great.
Yeah.
But from a computer science perspective, the OR that we are dealing with is an inclusive OR.
Right.
I like to think I always explain it as the soup or salad problem that gets me kicked. So if we go to the restaurant and the server comes up and says, "Would you like soup or salad?" I say yes.
Yep.
Because it's true. I would like soup or salad.
Yeah.
I would like one or the other or both. Give me.
You just give me.
Yep.
I'll have sides.
I will take sides. And then I get kicked. Because really the question is, would you like soup exclusive or salad? And I'm like,
Yes. Which would you like? is
which
really
would
the
you
question.
like?
Oh yeah.
You may have one. You may not have both.
9 items or less,
Yeah.
or 9 items or fewer.
That's just,
Yeah.
at that boundary line between, on the one hand, the motivation of someone running a restaurant who would like to offer a choice and would prefer not to offer both choices
Right.
at the same price.
Exactly. But trying to teach computer programmers that when I say or in a computer program, it's inclusive. It means if this is true, it's true. If B is true, it's true. If B and A are true, it's still true, right? It's all a thing. But
It's because you got a truth table, and we formalized that stuff starting in the late 19th century, roughly.
yeah, and we use this for doing it. I learned it through programming, but then I re-encountered it in philosophy and doing some predicate logic kinds of things. And
And you look back to, as I say, figures in basically some more formal approaches to language that emerged in the late 19th century.
Are there?
Russell and
Yeah, I was
particular,
thinking.
but
Yeah. Are there? I don't know. Like, say, epistemologically speaking, there's still some sort of debate between internalism and externalism. So there's like camps in terms of that. Are there different schools of like, if you have a position on the language and how it works? Are there other schools that think differently, as it were,
The interests
for lack of?
the issues that philosophers typically deal with are the ones that involve dispute and disagreement and no, it's better to think of it this way, or so on and so on.
really justify how, right? Which is great. I love that.
Well, that's what I was kind of poking at, as like where's the friction in these moments now, right? Like, if it's been 150 years now, where are there fresh conflicts? Are there just
There's
impossible projects that we just lean into?
I think there are lots and lots of different ways that you can approach meanings of words, including the sort of connective words. And as I said, I think once already here, those words are actually quite unstable. So you can find in Shakespeare, and he does that. I think I've used that one already today. And we immediately hear that, if you're at all listening, without getting confused at all. Say he's saying if, right, as we would translate it. And so the context delivers so much constraint on how we interpret things, even when it's used in an odd way, that we just don't have much trouble with it. And as I say, these particular logical words, in particular the ones that are just plain functions as we think of them, from truth values to truth values, when we think of them that way, those kinds of words just don't have to be in a natural language particularly firmly grounded. Red and green are pretty well grounded in English, but if and not so much. And you'll find in Shakespeare, and he does that again.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yep.
Yes, I do. Yes,
So
I do.
the context tells us how to interpret it, and so those words just almost serve as punctuation in separating the words that they're part of that sentence.
Well, there are some things you can do when you're speaking, and you just throw a thing in there, and people understand that what you put in was a placeholder, but they fill in what the placeholder actually is. And in that particular case, thing was standing in for the word.
Yeah.
But we probably all understood that from the context of what I was saying.
Yeah, I didn't even think about
You don't
it.
even notice.
And you don't even notice.
Natural language becomes so natural to us that it's very hard not to just let it fly by, and instead of holding still and saying, what happened there? How did that come to be something that does this job in the context of a conversation, or so on and so forth.
That's how we end up with so many thingamajigs and whatchamacallits.
Yep.
Yep.
You know, the what's it next
The who's
to
it?
Yeah.
The
general purpose.
yeah.
Could be anything, but in the context, you're
It's
supposed
this.
to be able to
You
pick
should
it up.
know that I meant the what's it.
Exactly.
Not
That.
not the thingamajig.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just one.
And that requires all kinds of stuff too, because pointing is just as ambiguous as anything else. You could be pointing at the chair, you could be pointing in that direction, you could be pointing at the color of the chair, on and on. And so what you're conveying really depends on.
Well, that's one of those crazy human extra things that we can do. Is this one where you shift your eyes over? Because we have the whites around, and you can actually tell where you're looking.
Yep.
Yeah,
Which is equally detrimental. Then animal knows that you're looking at it or not. But
but socially, apparently,
Socially, it
it's been
works
more
really-
useful than it's been
yes,
counter-useful.
we continue to dominate planet. So
Somebody has been itching the back of my brain.
Yes.
Sure, let's go with that.
That's what you scratch for.
we absolutely
So I'm making
know what you meant.
So I'm making up this question from scratch. So if language is noises and inscriptions, does that have any impact on the notion that sign language is a language? Because it's neither inscription,
But
it's
it's
not
not-
inscriptive, but it's not noises.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know I'm nitpicking
Well,
here.
you're broadening the picture, and I think that the
I just
picture
broke it.
is legitimately broadened there. for
Yes.
sure. Yeah.
Okay. I was just.
It would be like a computer language in that sense. Then it's a construction that represents the
A
natural
noise or an
language.
inscription. Yeah. It's an abstraction.
Yeah, and in context, right?
Yeah.
It's not much of a problem to sort of see what's being said, to figure out how to respond, and so the noises go back and forth, and we seem to communicate along the way.
We're making visual noise.
Yeah. Yes.
Actually, and I would actually call
That too.
that's legitimate visual noise.
that is a thing. That's it.
Yeah.
Cool.
The static on your right. All of those things. Like I wouldn't like. That's part of the social engagement, right? A wink could be, "Hey, I'm just kidding," or "I'm going to kill you in half an hour."
Yeah,
Right.
you
Like,
have to watch, because that is a kind of language, and it can be, different in different societies.
And it seems
can
like
be
a
ruder
naturally-
in some societies and perfectly acceptable in others.
I learned this action in Russia used to be this action. So when Team Canada went to Russia or Soviet Union and won some hockey and skated around the rink going, "We're number one," not a popular move.
Oops.
Yeah.
They probably didn't mind.
No, I'm sure. I'm sure once they were told after, they're like, "Yeah, okay, that's hilarious. I'm glad." we
Yeah,
did it,"
ha, ha,
right?
ha,
Yeah,
that's great.
but I mean, but it's that easy to get just a part of the language wrong.
Yeah.
It's just the simple
All kinds
gesture.
of gestures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even the noises we make don't necessarily mean the thing that we want them to mean in another language. right? So I think about things like the French word for seal, which in English sound like if you listen in English, it's not the word you're expecting.
You hear the F-bomb.
Yeah.
No, it's a PH word.
Yeah,
Folk.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't quite sound.
No.
like
No, but in context, you could take that.
There's a bunch of English names that are Chinese puns too, like that mean like godleg or like Wilbur, and like very simple English names are just easily pun. I mean, Chinese are terrific punsters as far as I know, but because there's such variety in language and just little inflections change.
Tonal language.
Yep. Yeah. And that's right. And my inability to understand Chinese doesn't mean it's any less of a natural language, right?
And you can hear tone. So those things are learnable in much the same way that strictly speaking, the word as we think of it, which is always kind of abstracted from the language, because otherwise it's in use and it's doing some work, and that's going to vary from job to job, context to context.
Like an upspeak, right? Like if I say a thing and I could say it like this, or I could say it like this, and there seems
you could say it like that.
Right. I could say it like this. But each one has it's the same sentence. I could say it like this, but they each leave an idea about that phrase.
Or the classic example where it's like a 5-word sentence, and if you put the emphasis on a different word in the sentence, it means something else.
Oh yeah.
Yep, not at all unusual, and that's because presumably we are, potentially at least, sensitive to those kinds of change, and we notice them, and context even steps in and gives us some sense of where that goes. Oh yeah, that's what he's up to.
Even like fooling around with the emphasis on the wrong syllable, right?
Yeah. We use those kinds of sayings to say, okay,
what you said,
that's what we're talking
those
about there.
Words.
You're illustrating as well as uttering.
Yeah.
On my successful attempt at taking introductory philosophy,
you've taken it more than once.
There's a long story to that. We don't need to air it. I tell all my students about my academic shortcomings because it makes them feel better when they have a bad day. But I was a mature student, for some versions of the word mature, and it was it's Philosophy 1000, and there's a lot of topics and a lot of things, and there were some very hurt feelings over the words, and it's like, and I read the words and I hear the words, and my brain tries on all the different emphasis you can put in a sentence, and tries on the different giving more weight to parts of the context of the noise, and there are people who were just butthurt about some things they were saying about, say, for example, the existence or non-existence of a god or gods. And people, but
touchy ground.
It was touchy ground, but I mean, the whole point was to discuss these arguments, and I like to generously think that they weren't intentionally misunderstanding the argument. I think they were just putting too much emphasis on some words in some parts of the argument, just because that's how they were trained, and they'd never encountered the idea of thinking about those things with different words or different emphasis, and they're just really, really hurt.
To grapple with the hypothetical notion, they've already placed too much weight on the claim you've asked them to embrace, right?
If this claim is true, and this claim is true, such and such follows, such and such follows, such and such follows.
Right.
But they would not be able to divorce that from the notion of the contrary, or the conclusion, the commitment.
If I accept this argument, I'm in trouble.
Yeah. And
emotional trouble.
So you don't want to think about it as an argument in a serious way, because unlike the philosopher who's just interested in the argument in a very abstract way, in some contexts anyway, you're not really trying to argue something. You're just saying, consider this. But at the same time, to consider that when you're talking about something that would contradict closely held commitment.
Whereas I kind of use that as a
that
rhetorical
just sounds socially
tool.
nasty, or scary, or
To be fair to the instructor, the very next argument that we took on was one that was on the other side. So everybody had a chance to feel comfortable in their own skin, their own argument, right? So
you're an atheist. How do you feel about the possibility that there's a God?
right, and then there were a different bunch of butthurt people.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Especially when you think about some of the things that are said about the fate of those who are not in the proper religion.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it's all just words. I say just words, but they're words that we're using to put forth an argument, to explain a case, to live our lives, to not live our lives, to do whatever it is we're going to do with them. To open the question or attempt to close a question. But it's just words. But except that it's so important. But it's saying it's just words. It's only words.
Yes. Yeah. If you think about really serious professions, right, and talk about words like technical words in just medicine, for instance, or in physics, where you're building an atomic bomb.
You're using words that
mean something that has an immense kind of scope of significance that goes beyond just, okay, consider this to be true, consider that to be true, or therefore reject this other thing that you decide isn't true as a result. We can do those things relatively freely in a kind of abstract context, but when you jump into words that have meanings and that come with a sense of danger or threat or a sense of commitment or a sense of rejection, all of those kinds of things,
like an immediacy factor,
at least potential, what should I say, emotional responses.
Sticks and stones may break my bones.
But I think that's where it is.
But words really will hurt me.
the fear of making a philosophical commitment, and then later uncovering that you don't actually even agree with that commitment you've made, right? So I think that's where people couch their language.
If you become a philosopher, you've got to learn to do that one.
You get
Okay, I thought that was a pretty good idea. But, there's this problem. Actually, we run into a contradiction here.
Here's my bag of wiggle words. I'm going to not use all of them today.
Today's word is boop.
Possibly.
Possibly. Well, those are some danger. There's some danger words, right? There's some danger words because they're such wiggle words, right? If someone said something crazy like, they're trying to take your freedom, right? Freedom is such a loaded up baggage word.
A bit of rhetorical, right? Often abuse.
And Orwell actually spelled it out really well in a nice little booklet that he put out just before 1984, where he chose these kinds of words that could be used to do these things. And so to me, that sort of deliberate look at what I've said about this word. Please pay attention. Right? And then so if someone says we're taking your freedom, everyone has a vision of what their freedom is, and it probably is not unified, but nobody wants to lose it. Right? So it's really easy to rile a crowd.
You start mandating vaccines, for instance. For good reason when it comes to people exposed to the broader population and the presence of transmissible bug or virus.
I was watching some kid that is waiting his heart transplant, so cannot be immunized. So please, everyone else, get your measles vaccine so this kid can live.
That'd be great.
Just a thing like that, right? Where we're mandating.
And it helps there
for greater freedom
to appreciate what has come out of things like the development of treatments or. That's been a massive bit of success for human societies in the sense that
it's allowed us to live to die of cancer
or smallpox for that matter. Smallpox used to kill a lot of people.
We only need to breed a replacement population.
And now it's gone, except for apparently a couple of little labs deep in the ground in the Soviet Union, or what was the Soviet Union, and the United States. And I think nobody else has it anymore.
Which was polio is just about gone.
We are so close. We're so close.
My great granduncle was actually master of the Canadian Mint for some time.
Ah.
But when he was growing up, of course, he went through that.
Yep.
And the other kids would tease him. And of course, he had a cane. He'd throw himself on the ground and trip them. And then he was very strong
Yep.
Yeah.
in the upper body.
Yep.
So once they're down, they're fair game.
So once they're down, yes, he could rough them up.
That's hilarious.
Yep.
And, yeah. So, you know.
I mean,
Former Governor General Ray Natition.
the Scarlet Fever people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right. We don't get those things.
Nope,
Weird.
no, I don't ever.
Nice.
It's because we used our noises and our inscriptions
And a fair bit of actual study and extension and application and
to not work on it alone, to not make random guesses, but to make previously researched, informed guesses for the next time.
And some of it based on very
actually
flawed
taking
things.
the sugar cube
Yep.
in those early days
yeah.
when those came out, and yeah, I appreciated that.
Yes.
Well, that's
My parents were quite eager to get my sister and I
our
treated.
parents as well.
Yep. I have the smallpox
Yeah.
scar.
I've
You
got
don't.
I don't. I'm part of the experimental crowd where they're like, we think we've cured smallpox. So I actually don't. But there's people younger than me
Yep.
that have them.
Yes.
But I'm part of a test group. I've been a
had two,
medic.
actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we had to cross back into the U.S. at one point, and the paperwork that we had from previous cases.
So you got like a double decker.
Yeah.
Yep.
It always just looks like the old car cigarette lighter. Just somebody went.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got mine young enough that it's just a little. It's really tiny.
Yeah. Mine mostly cleared up too. Yeah.
So yeah.
Neat.
Little
That is
price
neat.
to pay for not getting
For not dying.
Hooray!
And it's yeah. And then all of the other utterances and inscriptions about that have just people decide to ignore. That's also the frustration. There's a plethora of information. Lead the horse to water, as it were. Right?
You can't make them drink. No. And it's
And who wants a drunk
what
horse?
happens, unfortunately,
Yeah.
language can be used in lots of ways that aren't particularly constructive, and people can be persuaded
Words
to
are-
believe things.
Words
on
are
the basis
tools.
of-
Words are
of
tools.
Intersocial dependencies and connections and caring.
Sorry, I've been trying to turn in all the. There we go.
So there we are, sort of at odds, even over things that really should be considered settled.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, looks like we're just.
Settled enough. Like
settled. Yeah.
like we have this desire for 100% certainty in a world that contains randomness.
Well, we can. There are some things that we can make, in a sense, final and done with, because we've agreed to a practice where 3 comes right after 2 when we're talking about
If we set parameters,
that sequence of numbers.
we can find a thing that is right or wrong within the parameters.
Fortunately, that is the kind of thing that doesn't seem to become disputed over time. There's not much motive for saying, no, it's 4 that comes after 2.
We
That
might
just
not
sounds
be able to
silly,
say that.
useless.
We may not be able to say what causes gravity or how gravity works or lots of things we can't say about gravity. But I don't think anybody's going to say this thing that we refer to as gravity doesn't actually exist. Right?
Yeah,
I drop things, they fall.
It
Right?
gets difficult. Yeah,
There's lots of
that's-
distance, but from every practical perspective, gravity exists. We kind of understand enough on a day-to-day basis.
Like that we can put it into math and launch things into
We've
space.
changed the meanings of the word over time.
Oh, absolutely.
We've got Newton, right, which is already a long way into the story, but
Yep.
Newton thinks of it as a force,
Yep.
right? Einstein says it's what mass and energy do to the shape of space-time.
Yeah.
Well, and they could both be right because of how we use how force was used.
Yeah.
Right. And
But technically, in the place where we had that, the Newtonian picture of the force,
Yeah.
right, not quite right.
no.
Yeah.
But for
Hence the
miasma
weird
theory.
stuff about the orbit of Mercury.
yeah.
Yes. But the miasma theory is my example of we got it totally wrong and it still worked.
Yep.
Right? Like because we decided the air was bad, if we kept people out of the bad air, they would get healthier. And so quarantines and such existed.
Quarantines and opening windows.
And opening windows.
Yeah.
did amazing things.
to let the bad air out.
So there's absolutely not enough time left because we're down to like the last minute and a half. So I'm going to ask a question that requires a really long answer.
Perfect. Good one.
Just to give me a big squeeze.
That's right. That's right.
No, I'm not.
Read it out.
We were briefly talking about words as tools. I was going to say words are weapons sharper than knives.
Oh, good.
To quote the music. Is there as we use language, is there an unfair way to use language? Like especially when talking about other things?
There's an unfair way to do almost anything.
I suppose. I'm specifically thinking of one whiny YouTuber who used to be a philosophy guy, who always, whenever he feels he is losing his argument, he will just suddenly shift saying, well, what do you mean by this? Well, what do you mean by that?
Oh, Benzo Kermit.
Yes.
Oh, that's a regress. So
Okay.
it's a regress trick, right?
Yeah.
Because whatever explanation, you can just double down and say, well, what does that
Well,
mean?
what does that mean? Yeah.
And meaning is, from one perspective is translation.
Yeah.
And now I want a richer translation and a richer translation.
Because I'm not prepared to debate you on what we both agree the word means. I want you to lose.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of that in the
in the philosophy business?
Yeah.
No, serious philosophers certainly don't play that game. Sometimes people will get a little bit smart-ass about something, and it can be just part of a joke, right?
Yeah.
You've given a talk, and somebody says, "What about this?" and everybody laughs.
But
and
more
that's
of the
that's
tool.
that's a positive use of just a bit of a tease.
And you can use that to actually sort of to flesh out flesh out an argument.
Yep.
But what if I say
what
something
about-
like, I don't believe certainty exists, and then
Well, what do you mean by believe?
no, I get the other. I get a different tool used the other way. Are you certain? Well, no, I clearly stated I'm not. Like, why are you even asking me this question, right? Of course, I've left it all open to uncertainty.
Well, I am certain that we are out of time.
We're out of time.
Oh,
Okay.
well,
Thank
it
you so
just
much.
goes flying.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
It's been
much.
fun to just
Babble a little
shoot
bit.
my mouth off and
That's great.
try to find something methodological a little bit. And,
Yeah, no,
perhaps a little
my
interesting.
brain's already busy playing with all these new ideas.
But mostly we make noises, as an old friend of mine used to say.
I want to take that home with everybody.
Take that home. We just make noise.
Inscriptions.
We make noises and inscriptions. And well,
Utterances and inscriptions, and noises and scribbles.
noises and scribbles. So we're gonna be
Mixing our metaphors. It's terrible.
Yeah.
What's a metaphor? Cows.
Cows, yeah.
So we'll be back. We'll be back in a future episode.
Yeah, you're taking
And
some time off.
These guys
Summer.
seem to continue. Yeah,
Yeah.
How long have you guys been doing this?
4 years.
4 years.
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
So we're semi-annual, semi-routine, semi-weekly.
Okay.
And we have fun.
Calm about it. You know how to run the thing. And
Yeah,
We like to think so.
Yeah.
So
it seemed to work pretty
We
well
host a good
today.
show.
Thanks.
we
Thanks
want
for
to
having
thank
us.
Jess. Thanks, Jess.
thanks, Jess, and we'll be back in the future. We'll make some noises.